National Guard asks D.C. leaders for beautification projects as Trump says crime is gone. Washington. Matthew Cohen couldn't believe the D.C. National Guard was offering up its soldiers to help with a neighborhood cleanup. "To have the National Guard come to our neighborhood to help pick up litter is absurd," said Cohen, an advisory neighborhood commissioner, one of Washington's hyperlocal elected officials in the city's low-crime Northwest. But he could use the help. So long as thousands of soldiers had standing orders from President Donald Trump to remain on duty in the Capitol, Cohen wondered, what was the harm if his community took them up on the offer? Troops that deployed to the city in August were meant to combat what Trump called a crime emergency. Groups of camouflage-clad soldiers have since become a familiar presence, pacing the underground platforms of metro stations in the city's downtown, along the marble halls of Union Station and at the National Mall, home to the Washington's popular monuments. Soldiers have also been spotted in parks carrying out tasks typically assigned to gardeners and landscapers, shoveling mulch, blowing leaves, and scooping up trash. Now, the D.C. National Guard is asking city leaders if they might help with local beautification projects. This tender offer comes amid protests against Trump's takeover of the city under the banner of Free D.C., and the Guard's own assessments that its deployment prompted alarm and indignation among residents. The Guard may have worn out its welcome, but soldiers were still assigned to the region. Trump has said the ongoing military presence in the Capitol, coupled with his takeover of the local police force and surge of immigration agents, has made crime in the city a thing of the past. Over the last year, it was a very unsafe place. Over the last 20 years, actually, it was very unsafe, and now it's got virtually no crime, Trump said of Washington as he stood on a corner of the city's downtown on September 9th. "We call it crime-free." Trump's emergency declaration allowing him to seize control of police expired September 10th, but the National Guard deployment won't wrap up until November 30th, and it could be extended further. The takeover remains widely unpopular among Washington residents. Some 80% oppose it, according to a Washington Post poll. D.C. Guard accepting pitches for beautification projects. What else could the soldiers do? In a letter sent to local leaders September 8th, Marcus Hunt, the director of the D.C. National Guard, asked for help in identifying projects or initiatives where Guardsmen can pitch in on neighborhood beautification efforts. "While our ability to support painting is limited, our teams are well positioned to contribute manpower for cleanup and improvement projects," Hunt wrote, according to a copy obtained by USA Today. "Most importantly, we want to do this together with the community, building relationships and strengthening the bond between the Guard and the community we proudly serve." Hunt told USA Today the response to the email had been positive. However, local leaders in Washington said they felt torn between their constituents' opposition to the deployment and the opportunity to recruit military help with sometimes long-neglected community projects. Cohen, who represents a neighborhoods near American University, decided it would be okay to engage with the soldiers. "If the National Guard wants to clean graffiti or beautify federal parks in our neighborhood, I don't think anybody is going to oppose that, even if we think it's a silly way to get that job done and an unwise use of taxpayer dollars." Others were reluctant to accept help. "Our D.C. National Guard should return back to their families, back to their full-time jobs. This show of force is unnecessary," said Tom Donahue, an advisory neighborhood commissioner for part of southeastern Anacostia. But he added, "I'd rather them do something if they're required to be here, than stand around and do nothing." Anacostia, where Donahue is based, is statistically one of the highest crime areas in Washington. Roughly one-third of homicides in the past year occurred in Ward 8, which encompasses part of his region. He said National Guardsmen were to be found in his district.